I've come to realize that everybody has their own style, and my style is kind of unmatched. Gonz was strange. He was hard to understand. I'm pretty headstrong, and it's when you're with me, it's kind of like the Mark show, and it's kind of like I think he's too quirky for that. So when I got to hang out with him, it was the Gonz show. You know, it wasn't, and so I had a hard time like following him and understanding him, and his humor didn't make sense to me at the time. There's a lot of different things that I didn't understand about Mark Gonzales that I still don't understand.
Did you see that he posted a video of you? Actually, it's some of my footage.
Oh yeah, I did see that a while back. Yeah,
that was classic.
Yeah, there was one point where I think, where were we? We were at some pro contest and somewhere in the middle of the United States, and it was like we all flew in that night, and the first practice day was the next day, but we all like kind of were in the same hotel, and it must have been Ohio Cow Skates, because we all went to a mini ramp that was like indoors, and I remember I was so tired that I fell asleep on the deck of the mini ramp, and I woke up to Mark Gonzales hovering above me. I'll never forget it. He's hovering above me, looking at me, pointing at me, and I woke up saying, what's going on? You know, like, what's wrong? And he's all like, you're on acid. And I was all like, what? I'm not on acid. I fell asleep. And he's all like, your eyes were open. And he was yelling at everybody. He sleeps with his eyes open. It was like, he made me feel so weird. I was all like, I felt so, and just, it was like super, it was a trippy moment. And since then, he's like thought that I'm like this crazy Indian. So like when after that happened, every time I'd like be around him or get a chance to hang out with him, he acted a little scared of me. Like he kept his eye on me, you know, because So yeah.
Classic. Oh, skateboarding, we have so many characters. It's like a big family.
Did I forget? I don't know where it was. It must have been. It might have been Illinois or somewhere weird, or it must have been Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. We all like were after a practice day, and we're all like, there was tons of there was tons of fans of chick chick fans watching us practice at this in Chicago, in Illinois. And I remember walking to at night. It was after we were done practicing. Everyone was like, and all the girls were like just outside the building, kind of trying to talk to all the skaters. And I remember getting to the hotel, and we get in the and we're getting ready to go up to our room. We get in the elevator, and we're in the elevator, and we're starting to go up the elevator, and the fucking emergency roof opens. The little pop out to the elevator roof opens, and Jeff Grosso jumps down, puts the cover back on, and he's got like grease all over him. Like he's been up there for a while or something. And we're like, Grosso, what the fuck are you doing up there? And he's like, dude, there's a chick up there. I just did a chick up there. And we were like, oh my God. And yeah, we were blown away. He was all greasy. Like he was hanging on to chains, while he was doing her. And then he was wiping his face with his hands, and he didn't know he had grease on his hands. He had grease all over, and he's like, yeah, he was all fucked up too. Yeah, there used to be some pretty crazy. Yeah, in Japan, that was another place where Grosso got really fucked up. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I got some Japan stories too. Like on the way home from Japan, like Hosoi had all this hash. He couldn't find weed. There, but he found a bunch of hash. So like, we're all in this fucking like a limo bus. Like we all had our own individual like seats with TVs and everything, and like little beverage stands. Yeah, it was crazy. And Hosoi's in the back of just chugging down, just smoking as much hash as he can. We're all smoking the hash with him. And fucking Grosso's drinking Sapporo beers. And he's like drinking, and like all of a sudden he's got to piss. And the bus driver ain't stopping for a piss break. And it's, the Sapporo cans, how tall they are, the big ones. He like takes a Sapporo can and he's like goes into the corner of the bus and he like fills it to the brim, like fills it to like where it's almost spilling over. And this is in the back of the bus. Grosso fucking comes into the middle of the aisle with it full, topped off, and you could smell the urine smell was all through the gnarly. Like as soon as he started peeing, everyone in the limo went, "Yeah, what you doing?" And he's like just laughing the whole time. And he has this Sapporo can full of fucking alcohol, full of his pee, and he's walking to the front of the bus with it. And like the bus is like rocking back, and he's like holding it over people's seats, going, I remember Tommy Grillo going, "Get out of here, what are you doing?" Yeah, everyone's freaking out. And fucking Jeff gets up to the seat behind the driver and opens the sliding door. We're on the freeway. Opens the sliding window, sticks his hand out, and pours it out. And when he poured it out, we all have windows, right? And he's at the window in the front of the bus behind the driver. He pours it out, and it just goes into the wind and sprays the whole side of the bus. And everyone's like, oh my God, everyone's windows went up real quick. It was spraying, and it was nuts. That guy was fun. He was fun to be around. Even when you were having a bad day, he was fun to be around. He never had a bad day.
No, that's for sure. Man, it's classic. Yeah. Remember those contests, like there's these famous contest runs of Grosso and of Neil Blender, like the famous one of Neil where he like pulls out the spray paint can and paints the wall. There's the famous one of
Arizona.
And Grosso like does the straight jacket. Those guys were a little threatened by the fact that street skating was taking over. And instead of just learning the tricks and adapting, they'd make a joke out of it. And I think that...
I was going to say my next thing is, like, Neil never really took street skating too serious. Yeah, he never took it too serious. Where guys like me, where I didn't enter the vert ramp contests, I was more turned pro as a street skater, even though I came from a vert background. I can remember, I forget where it was Ohio or Savannah or Cincinnati, somewhere weird. And it was after the contest. And back when it was, when I was skating what I call arena style, right in the beginning of all the street skating, all the street stuff, when it was done in the arenas, the vert was off to the side, and that was a whole different day. That was like the vert day. Then there was the arena, the street, what I was, the street style, the street contest, which was the arena style. And then they had freestyle. And freestyle was kind of like, they did like freestyle. Freestyle didn't really get its own day. It got like the afternoon after the vert ramp guys or after the vert contest. And so everybody was all hyped up or whatever, or worn out from already watching a contest. The freestyle skaters would get nobody there, no participation as far as like audience. They would have no audience. It would be like just them guys, and they'd be gathered around over there like doing their little pick-tack thing, you know, and you know, I mean, Rodney Mullen, I mean, there was a handful of us guys who would meander over there, you know, after we got all loaded or whatever, and just watch these guys, because they were amazing what they were doing with these little boards. But the little boards were very practical for anything else but tic-tacking around and kind of doing what they were doing. And that's why, that was one of the reasons why I said, you know, these guys, what they're doing is really gnarly, and you know, so what? So they're not flowing around like we are trying to look like surfers. I because it was skateboarding, I would go over and watch, and so I became I got to know a lot of them. And so, like, I can remember one day or after one contest, we all went out to dinner. And, you know, there was like a bunch of us. Like, we took up a whole section of the restaurant, like 4 or 5 different tables. And I'm on one table, and I'm like backed up against the table that Rodney Mullen's on, Steve Rocco, and somebody else, and like just these, yeah, just some heavy kingpin guys that are gnarly freestyle guys. And I remember the conversation that Rocco had saying, we're gonna change this. We're gonna change it. And I swear to God, the next thing that happened is World Industries. And then that's when things really changed. That's when the freestyle board grew, and all of a sudden the skateboard had a nose on it. It had a nose that was as big as the tail, and it was the same shape on both ends, and it had a big wheelbase. And so a lot of things changed in a short period of time. And you know, I could do kick flips. I could do stuff like that. I could do, you know, I did 360 flips. I did kick flips. I did heel flips. I did nollie, late kick flips and stuff like that. But I never was drawn to it. I never had a super desire to that's how I just want to get super good at that. I was more interested in drawing a layback out, and making it. I was more interested in making it look like a surf slash rather than, I don't know, concentrating on if my foot is flicking off the side of the board right, type of thing. And so I kind of that's where skateboarding started to kind of go away from me. And that's when I started to go, well, that's cool, whatever. And I just kept doing my own thing and then taking what I knew and trying to take it to the next level, like putting it everywhere I could put it.
There's so much division. Turn off your television now.
Well, yeah, okay, so let's go back to the beginning. I mean, I picked up a skateboard back in 68. I consider myself from the second generation. I was at the tail end of the first generation, or the first big wave of it, because I consider that big wave of it from 1910 up to 1965 to 68. That's a big swath. That's a huge swath right there. Right into the 70s. When I was 5, broke down my sister's roller skates, but the whole reason was because I wanted to be a surfer. My first board was steel wheels. Then I graduated. I did all the clay wheels and even had a couple sets of wood wheels. And the wood wheels were kind of cool because after they wore down to a certain point, they left a trail of splinters everywhere. It was crazy. 16 bearings per wheel with a cup that screwed all the way down against the hanger. Then the wheel, then the bearings, and and at the swap meet there, every weekend, there'd be a guy who pulled out this blanket and he laid out all this skate stuff. Dude, it was so rad. Dean and I put together the skateboards as he sold them. Because, people, all day long. And then the dude we'd help him pack up, and the guy would take us to a skate spot. Just randomly, some skate spot. And then he'd give us a ride all the way home. So this went on for, I'm going to say, 2 years. And then the guy kind of graduated from the swap meet area and got a shop. And that became Dave's Cave down in Ventura. Right when everything was transitioning from clay wheels to roller sports and Cadillac and stuff like that, with the very first urethane wheels, power paws. There were things there was things I was doing on clay wheels and in the very beginning of urethane wheels with loose ball bearings. I used to jump off sidewalks into the street, and when I'd cross the street, I would slam into the curb and let my back truck bash it and pop up. Right? Do you remember doing that? Going up the curb and letting your back truck bash up the rest of it? Well, one time I ripped off my truck. I ripped it off, and it was because it wasn't held in with a bolt and nut. It was held in with wood screws. This is with clay wheels. That's how we used to connect the trucks to the boards, with wood screws. We didn't use screws all the way through the board. Anyway, I ripped the truck off the board, and I was bummed. So I walked down to the skateboard shop. They put it all back together for me. And I can remember going home, practicing jumping off the sidewalk into the street and going across the street and doing what I eventually called a kip up. And a kip up was where you would come to the curb. As you're coming to the curb from the street to the curb, you lift up and unweight. And when you unweight, the tail would hit the ground and slide. And if you timed it right, it would slide and slap the curb with your trucks above the curb on the sidewalk, and you could like tail drop onto the sidewalk.
Almost like a blunt.
Correct. Exactly, a blunt. Only I was doing it with clay wheels, and that eventually turned into a ollie, because I would like unweight so hard that it would hit the tail, scrape a little bit before it would catch a little air, and I could go up tall curbs.
That's wild.
And that's because there was a couple times where I didn't want to rip off my truck anymore. And so I learned.
Black Knight or something?
Yes, I was right. It was actually a sidewalk surfer. Yeah, like a Black Knight. Yeah, I went through the Black Knight era, though. Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember Nautilin?
Yes, the Gorilla Grip guy. Yeah, wow, yeah.
No way.
Well, he wrote, in 1976, there was a big professional contest at the Cross in Ventura. In Ventura, there's a cross up on the hill, like up above Ventura looking over the ocean. And there's a big windy road that goes up there. And back in 1976, they like shut down the road and did a big professional contest that got like national news there, you know? And so during that contest, I met Ty Page, I met Skitch Hitchcock, I met Ed Nadlin, I met all the big names from that era. They were all there, and it was a who's who of everybody from that era. Like all the top skaters from that era were there.
All right, folks, your mama listen now. Come on, do it. Yeah, you better hit each other. You ever take it, buddy? Come on over here.
And that's where I met Lonnie Toft. That's where I met Richard Vanderwick. That's where I met Steve Monahan.
Steve Monahan.
That's where I met all the early. These are the first generation Sims guys. These are the Sims guys that started it all. I met those guys. And Tom Sims was there. And yeah, it was like he was in the contest, skating the contest. I ended up getting 11th place in giant slalom, which was pretty cool. I was pretty stoked with that. There was only certain guys in Skateboarder magazine that I wanted to emulate or looked up to because they emulated the surfers, which was, you know, the whole Dogtown crew. That's what their whole persona was about. Was like, you know, it's all about surfing, and surfing was all about localism and like back then it was crazy. I was from Ventura. The skateboard park that I went to was in Oxnard, and those were two crazy, gnarly rivalry local spots. So when I was at the beach, I could go to either or because I had friends in both spots. But I would be at parties when I was in high school, I'd be at parties and I'd have to leave the party because people from both areas would be there, and then all of a sudden big fights would break out, and people would be looking at me going, which side are you going to pick, Mark? You got to understand, Ventura was surrounded by natural skate spots. You know, before the Endless Wave got built, they had a skateboard park that was made of asphalt, and it basically was like a BMX circle track kind of with whoops in it. Well, that actual park had this little ditch going through it that we called the dike, and that dike is still there today. We had this place called Left and Rights that was out in the Camarillo. From my hometown, before I get into the Dogtown guys, we all know who all they are. There was the whole Pierpont crew, which is their little niche was back then was called the Pierpont Rats. And they were all skateboarder surfers, and that's what I wanted to be. There was Richard Vanderwyck, there was Steve Monahan, there was Davey Miller. Richard Vanderwyck starred in the movie L.A. Wheels, where Tony Alva played Tony Blue Tile. So the main character in that movie is Richard Vanderwyck. He's the skateboarder with red hair. He's from Ventura. So he was like one of the first guys that I looked up to because he was like the superstar skateboarder from our area, basically. And then there was little Steve Monahan, who got in Skateboarder magazine, like in the Sims ads. That's why, you know. And then fast forward a couple more years, that's when Lonnie Toft came into the picture for me, and Doug DeMontmorency and Mark Hollander and the whole Sims crew. There was John Stevenson. I don't know if you remember that guy. He was Mr. Rubberman. He was the manager at the skateboard park back in the beginning that told me, Mark, we noticed you getting good. We got team tryouts. You need to come. He's the one who noticed me and gave me a chance. He was the king of laybacks. He did better laybacks than Jay Smith. I'm going to say it right there. Sorry, Jay. Sorry, Jay. Jay got his laybacks from John Stevenson.
What?
Yes. Jay's were the best back then, but before Jay was John Stevenson. And then, you know, I mean, Jay Adams did good ones too. And Tony Alva did good ones. Hosoi did an unbelievably good ones, but I don't consider him from that era. He's the next wave. But he definitely was hardcore, pure Dogtown, heart and soul, old soul. Hosoi comes from that. His dad was the manager of Marina. That was a weird time for Jay Adams, because Jay Adams got really big and gnarly before the Hester series. And then when the Hester series happened, Jay kind of didn't have a place there, really. And he wasn't really a contest skater, so he kind of got lost in the rift. Most of the Dogtown skaters, Jay Adams especially, was known for throwing himself up into positions and then maybe landing on the wall and having his feet on the board, but sliding to the drain. And that's how he would come out of the trick or come out of the maneuver. And so you couldn't do that in the Hester series. That's considered not making it. It came about right around the time of the Hester series, where before it was more surfer-oriented, and that's what I mean, is the Dogtown guys, they opened up a bunch of doors because they didn't know what was possible in those pools. They didn't know what they could get away with. And so half the time they were just throwing themselves up there and then sliding out on their butt down into the drain. You know, and sometimes they would make it and get back to their feet and then roll across the drain. You know, there'd be like every once in a while, there'd be those miracle moments where everything happened right, and he landed it and skated out of it away to the shallow end. Oh my God, what did he just do? You know, and Jay was really good at that. He was known for just doing crazy stuff that was totally not normal, but then having the miracle happen, where somehow he got the board under him and rode away from it. Back in the beginning, we used to do the laybacks we did back in the beginning, were laybacks that we would just lay back and slide all the way down the wall to the drain. You know, I mean, Jay Smith was one of the barely, and John Stevenson was one of the guys who could barely pull it under him just before, as he was on the last part of the bottom of the transition, and roll away with it with enough speed to maybe go halfway up the other wall. We didn't land and go straight. That wasn't until later. When I was like 9 or 10, and right when the skateboard park opened, we started going there. We went there the week before it opened, and we're like looking through the fence, and like one of the workers that was back there said, "Hey kid, come here." And they called us in there and they said, "Hey, clean up this crap over here and you guys can ride the stuff that's already set and see if the cement is set." So we were like, oh my God. I mean, back then you didn't have too much reins on you with your parents. So me and Dean would just jump on the city bus. Oxnard was 2 hours away on the city bus, you know, and that was like pretty far away from home for like 11-year-old. From that point on, it was on, you know. And so at that point, I was on that Z-Flex board. That's what I was riding, that Z-Flex with tunnel rocks and half tracks. I can remember the manager coming up to me like at the end of the first week it was open saying, "Yeah, you need to come to this contest. That's the skate park tryouts." And so I went, and I ended up winning the contest and winning a brand new skateboard. And so fast forward about a month, because since I'd won the contest and got on the skateboard park team, no longer had to pay for sessions, and I could skate for as long as I wanted. So my mom was like stoked, because she would just drop me off and then pick me up that night. You know, I would be there all day long. So one evening, Mark Hollander, who was on the Sims team, was there with Doug DeMontmorency. And he's like, "Hey, see that guy over there in the van?" And he points out this guy that's sitting in the van. And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "He wants to talk to you. You should go talk to him, Mark." And I was all like, "Well, okay," you know, not knowing what that meant. So I went over to him, skateboard over to him, like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's all like, "Yeah, my name's Craig Feynman. I'm the Sims team manager and the photographer." And I was like, "Oh, rad," you know, I was like, whoa, you know, blown away. And he opens up the sliding door to his van. There's all these brand new Sims boards, taper kicks, and like just brand new boards. And he's like, "We want to sponsor you." And I'm like, "Whoa, what?" And I'm like, "What's that mean?" And he goes, "Well, I'm going to give you 2 complete boards every week." And I was all like, "What? Okay, let's do this." Bang. 2 boards, 2 complete boards. Sims Pure Juice wheels, you know, the whole 9 yards. I was like on cloud 9. My mom was stoked. That was, at that time, that was the cat's meow of teams to ride for too. So that was a pretty special time in my life. I mean, I wish I would have done a lot of things different, because they gave me Sims team shirts that had my name printed, Mark Partain printed on it, on the back across the shoulders, big Sims logo, big team underneath it, like, and so like, and I had the jerseys and the whole get up, dude. But like through the years, I lost it all to girls. Like, just like I'd have a girlfriend and she'd be like at my house and be like, "That's got your name on it. Can I wear it? Can I have it?" You know, and then I'd like, yeah. And then that's how I lost most of my skate stuff that I wish I still had. Like Lance Mountain has all that stuff from when he was a little kid still. You know, I wish I was like that, but I wasn't. I only rode Doug de Montmorency boards and Lonnie Toft boards. At the time, Lonnie was my local hero. Lonnie's an inventor and an innovator. And Lonnie, I might get a lot of people riled up about this, but Lonnie it was his idea. He made the snowboard up. Lonnie didn't have the means to mass produce it or like get the type of. You also got to understand that Lonnie was a very artistic type of guy. He didn't look at it like Tom Sims did, I don't think. But when the skateboard park closed in '79, that's when my connection was sent with Tom Sims and Craig Feynman. That just kind of stopped. Right after the skateboard park closed, like '79, '80, I heard a rumor about Lonnie taking everything that he had that was skateboarding oriented, taking it down to the beach and making a big old bonfire and just burning it all. The local skaters in Ventura, we built this ramp down in the river bottom. We called it the Branca ramp. And that was like our go-to. From 84 to 87, 88 is when the Branca ramp was happening. It was a whole learning process, too, because I learned in pools where most of the walls were curved. And then when they started building backyard ramps and everything went to ramps, they were flat walls. Pools, you always have the wall coming at you when you're riding. If you're going backside, it's coming at you this way. If you're going front side, it's coming at you this way. But when you're on a flat wall, you can't rely on that wall coming at you. Where there's an advantage to some stuff, like if you know that that's happening, like it's where it's not when it's long and flat and straight, you have to stay on it. It's not, you have to push yourself into it, where you don't do that so much when it's a curved surface. And that's why pool skating got popular first before ramps, because it emulated surfing. Surfing, the waves always bending and coming at you. Another aspect of pools that is like waves is there's no two pools the same. Like there's no two waves the same. The way I look at it is like surfing totally started skateboarding, but then later on, skateboarding kind of gave back by showing what could be done and what could be possible. Yeah, we were doing some crazy shit on the cement, but if you approach the water and the wave in a certain way, you could accomplish the same maneuvers. Before that, it was like we street skated, but it kind of weird. It was weird. I felt like it had disappeared. And like when I heard Lonnie had done what he did, I thought, oh my gosh, my hero is gone now. You know, and I kind of felt like I was left holding the bag, so to speak. I got this one friend named Scott. He rode 10 speeds all around that he would like put BMX bars on and, you know, beach tires on it. And so I was riding a BMX bike with a hand pull brake. And for that time is like, that's kind of where I honed in on my bicycle skills, I think.
Is it a bus?
Yeah.
You posted the the 6th Street ditch video, I had like 3 or 4 people ask me, "So, does that wiggle keep your speed up?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, you don't even know." You know, I had to tell that. You saw the one comment where I was like, it used to be called gyrating. It was like a thing in the 70s. I got so good at it, I could like gyrate up a hill without pushing. I mean, when you have board control like that and you can actually pump speed out of the board, then there's something to be said for that. I reached a point during the early 90s where I got good enough where I could start thinking about how I looked. There was a point just before, it was probably right around the time I turned pro, where I would find myself riding ramps and doing Smith grinds and 50-50s, and in the middle of doing the maneuver, I would be thinking, I would have enough time, I'd be so relaxed and so comfortable that I'd have enough time to think about what my hands and what my fingers were doing and what my arms were doing and how my head was looking and my shoulders and position. And like, so there came a point where I got so comfortable I was able to play with it and manipulate it a little bit. So Chuck and I hit it off. Chuck said, "Hey, Mark, I want to give you this, little pro model thing." So I made this board shaped like a platypus. Hosoi had his hammerhead, so I made this thing called like a platypus. But I got to do all the castle contests for a couple years in a row. How I met Dave Berthold, the owner of Blockhead, was by doing those little amateur contests. I went to Reno, Nevada and won a street contest. And then the next weekend was a Visalia YMCA vert ramp contest. And I got like top 5 in that. I think I placed 3rd or something. And I ended up beating all the Blockhead riders in the vert contest. And the week before I had beat all the street skaters. And so that's when Dave approached me after the Visalia contest. I'm in the van celebrating with all my buddies, just fucking chugging bong hits away. And I get a knock on the side of the van, and I open it up, and it's Dave, and he's like, "Yeah, you beat all my riders. I want to turn you pro." And I was like, "Well, what's that mean?" He's all, "Well, I'll send you the 3 pro contests. You get top 15. I'm sure in his head he was thinking that I wouldn't be able to do top 15 in 3 separate contests. So I was like, "Yeah, done deal." Yeah, that's when everything started happening with Blockhead. When they sold out to Tracker is when everything got weird. I come back from Japan with $3,000 in my hand and 6th place. They asked me, "Yeah, Mark, you're back. Okay, come to lunch." So I thought, all right, they're going to match the money. I'm fucking finally going to get some money, At lunch, they're like, "Yeah, dude, we think you spend too much money on weed." And that's when I went, "What? F you, and it's none of your business what I spend my money on." And then they said, "Yeah, at the end of the year, we're going to discontinue your model." And so I was all like, "What?" So it was the end of the year was, this was in October when they told me. So it was a real slap in my face. I didn't know what to do. I went from a little over $1,000 a month to zero, within a month or, within a couple months. And it was like, I had put myself in a bad situation, I guess, not knowing that that was going to happen. Like, cause I was in a rental place where I had to come up with like $800 a month every month for rent. And then my girlfriend had bought a car that I had co-signed for. So then I was stuck with her payments. And I was in a bad situation for that to have had happened to me. So I was pissed off, and the whole reason that they gave me was really lame because I was working my way up.
Yeah.
You know, as far as like contests, and on paper at the time when they canned me off a blockhead, on paper I was their best rider. I wanted to be the best in the world for a while. I was like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the best in the world. I'm going to be the best all-around skater. You know, like Tony was in the 70s, in the late 70s, or in the, you know, mid to late 70s. Tony Alva was untouchable. He rode everything, and everything was very different then. Back then when Tony was world champion, he had to do slalom. He had to do freestyle. He had to do, they had an event called barrel jumping. During my blockhead days, it wasn't really, I don't consider that street style because we were skating in an arena. And even the street skating that's going on today is really weird because it's a manufactured environment. Remember the contest they had, and where was they were in the street that you had to go down this hill. It was like somewhere up near Santa Cruz.
Capitola in my hometown.
Yeah, like that, like how they did that street. That's a real street contest. See, a lot of people don't understand, too, that I had to reinvent myself, I don't know, 3 or 4 different times to stay connected in the industry and be a sponsored guy. Tommy Guerrero, Eric Duresin, all those guys were doing kick flips. They were like the pioneers of doing fast kick flips. You know, and what I mean by fast kick flips is like on a street board and going mocking.
Here's Ventura bred skater Mark Partain. Mark grew up skating bowls and pools in the early 70s and remains a strong force in today's vertical realm. Time to meet the man, Mark Partain. What up?
How's it going, Taters?
Good, man. Well, a lot of people out there who don't know you need to know a few things about you, so let's get busy. How long have you been skating?
I've been skating for about 20 years now. Started when I was 5 years old. Took my sister's roller skates apart, put them on a 2x4. 1968.
So you're the 20-plus club.
Yeah, that's
all right.
it.
Not too many of us around.
I like skating anything that's not meant to skate. Pools. And anything with transition, it's not meant to skate, it's fun.
Kind of like defying the laws of gravity and of the man who made it, huh?
That's right.
What do you think about skating in contests?
Contests are for the moment. Just for the moment. 60 seconds. That's
Boom.
about it. Yeah.
You don't think it really proves anything then?
Oh, I don't think it proves anything. I think the best skater in the world can have a bad 60 seconds, so.
Okay, any good road stories?
Jeff Grosso.
No.
Right now I'm working on getting a company started, Renegade Skateboards.
All right.
And that's basically my new board.
Is that what this is over here?
That's what that is.
You got a little Renegade skate right here?
That's it, man.
I mean, the whole Renegade thing kind of shut down. When that shut down, I was kind of like freelancing. I rode for Stedham for 6 skateboards there for a while, and that was pretty good because I was able to ride the basic pool and ride Kelly Belmars and that. Remember for a while, those were the only 3 pools in in California were like, you know, skateboard made pools. And so during the beginning of all the skateboard parks that are going on today, I was in the Huntington, Newport area and in Ramona, which is like East San Diego. During my Ramona days, I was riding Claremont all the time, and I rode for Deathbox, which was done by Dave Hackett. In that blockhead era, no one really knew that I came from the 70s, and no one really knew that my forte, that my favorite thing to do was skate pools.
Right.
I was a through and through pool skater. I mean, that's where my roots are, is in pools. And then when Blockhead turned me pro, I didn't have anything to do with pools. I was trying to mimic what I had done in pools through street skating or through arena skateboarding on banks and stuff like that. And then pools, all of a sudden, later on, they became popular, and people started to go, whoa, you know, where'd you come from? And I was like, I've always been here. You know, I mean, and that's where, it's kind of like that whole 6th Street Ditch Day. The whole, boy, there's some heavy hitters at that day. There was, you know, like, as far as pool skaters, you know, Duresson kills pools. Salva kills pools. Farmer kills pools. You know, I like to consider myself a pool skater. And, you know, Tuma is really good in pools, and no one really knows that either. And it had to be one of Salva's pools because we were out there in Salva.
Which pool is this?
Central pool. This pool's killer. It's like one of the first pools I ever skated.
Well, just because Salva's so, you know, he's got to run the show if it's a pool.
Hurry up, Bart, before you cops come. That's the other thing about sketches, is the cops are right down the street. You know? Make sure no cops are watching.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, that was gnarly. When I lived in San Diego and was hanging out tight with Farmer, Salva would come down, and Farmer and I and like Ruler, we would take him to all the pools that we had. And so that enabled us to go up to his area, and then he had to take us to all the pools he had. And it was like surfers. It was like we had full localism. And Salva was like gnarly about it. I can remember when I moved to Ridiculous Pool in San Bernardino. This is after I moved back from Hawaii and before I moved up here to Oregon. I lived at Ridiculous Pool. And I can remember going through the neighborhood right when I lived there and finding a couple pools. And then telling Salva, oh yeah, I found this pool and this pool and this pool. And he's like, oh yeah, those are mine. You can't skate them. He's like the actual, it's super funny that I know him. Because he's like the first guy who won the very first pool contest, right? That was one of the reasons why he started, I believe, was because of surfing. You know, he started skateboarding because he lived inland, and so he couldn't surf, so he skated like me. You know, kind of the same scenario. But so it's kind of funny because he's kind of jockish about everything, and he always would pad up, and like I would go skate with him there at the end, and by the time he was done doing his calisthenics on the side, I'd be ready to bounce to the next pool. I'd be like, you know, and he'd be mad because I just went over the sidewall ladder, the shallow end steps, the deep end, you know, the death box and the light, and did the combo of everything, and I did it all in 2 runs or 1 run, you know, and that's where he would like make me wait. He would make me wait. When he would take me to new pools, he'd make me wait. And because he was bigger than me, he'd kind of manhandle me. And if I like jumped in the pool before him and took a run before him, he'd get really pissed. Or if like we were riding a pool together and I saw him like trying something and I would go and just do it, he would get so mad at me. And I'd just be looking at him and be like, bro, I didn't do it to one-up you. I did it to show you that it's possible and that you could do it. Mickey wasn't around for a lot of that.
Yeah.
He was there a little bit. And I remember when I lived at Ridiculous, he made a couple appearances just because I was there. He's like, oh, yeah, I heard you're here, you know, and I actually did a couple jobs with Mickey, and he ran me over with a golf cart.
Hard to compare, because Salva's specialty was his lines. The way that he would, like, just this continuous motion. The whole ride would be one continuous motion, whereas Mick would do the gnarliest blasts. With lines, of course, but Mick's explosiveness was in his own category.
Yeah, and Mickey had more of a... Mickey looked more natural. Mickey looked like a surfer. Steve's a great skater. He's insanely good, but he's very boxy. And you're right, he kind of get hit. You're right. He does do power lines, and they look like one continuous motion type thing. I mean, yeah. Steve's pretty insanely good.
I know that when you were in Hawaii, you went and found the pools. Did you skate with Cully?
Oh yeah, that's who I stomped with a lot. Cully's Sandon Ridge. Yeah, he's phenomenal in pools. Coley there for a while was pretty special and pretty untouchable. I can remember Coley coming and visiting California, like when he was in his prime, and I took him to pools that I considered really hard, and Coley blew me away. Coley would do stuff in these pools that I'd never seen done before. He's one of those underrated guys that should have... Backyard pools, there's certain guys that you can't touch. Ricky Styles is one of them. Do you know Choppy Omega? He was from Burnside. Yeah, those guys were hardcore in pools too. Wow. like Pigpen and Neil Headings.
Oh yeah.
Wow, those guys are insane in pools. Chris Livingston was really good in backyard pools. Boy, there's, John Swope. Cardiel, before he had his accident, he's untouchable. He's like a Gonz or an Otis. He's in his own category, kind of like Dressen. He's in his own. You can't compare him to anybody else. They're their own thing. Yeah, no, that was a good time, and it was probably the raddest time I've had with a videographer or a photographer ever. But because of that experience with you, I had soaked up everything that you had done with me, and meaning your style, meaning how you approached it, meaning it was a no-brainer. To me, everything you were doing made sense. A lot of follow cam stuff, all that stuff made sense. And it kind of just was like, oh, well, yeah, that's what should be doing. That's how it should be done. But yeah, I learned a whole lot. A lot of the way I film myself now, I learned indirectly through you or from you, because of those early days that we spent together and that whole early period. I know what I think looks good. So it's really easy for me to picture what I want to do, go outside, set it up, and in 5 minutes have a crazy photo. I'll look outside and the lighting will be just right. The clouds will be just right. Everything, the bird will be whistling out of that tree just right. So I'll go out and I'll set up my camera exactly where I have it pictured in my head. It's crazy. Like I've gotten that way with everything I build now too. Like I'll see something in my head and just build it and then do it. when I first moved to Oregon, I moved to a little town called Hood River. I went and got coffee, and as I'm ordering my coffee, this older lady with long red hair takes my orders, and as she's giving me my coffee, she's all, Mark Partain? and I step back, and I'm all like, yeah? And I'm like, how do you know me? I've never been to this town in my life, and I just got here at 10 o'clock last night. And she's all, oh, well, my husband owns the skate shop in town. And his name's Tom Inouye. Wally Inouye. So I'm like, what? Wally Inouye? I'm like, I was on the Sims team when I was like 12 and Wally was like 18 and he was the pro on the team. I'm like, where is he at? And she's all like, oh yeah, we know who you are. Wally's been following your career, the whole career. And I was all like, whoa. And she's all like, you know, we need a manager at the skateboard shop. Go talk to Wally. So that day I went down and found Wally. Bang, got a job. So I started working at IPS, skateboard shop in Hood River. And then fast forward about 9 months, Wally comes into work and he's like, Mark, I'm going to close the doors. I'm like, what? And he's like, yep, I'm closing the doors. I got a job offer up on the mountain as a head chef, you know, in this high-end kitchen. And my daughter's getting ready to graduate, and I'm going to have to send her to college, and the skateboard shop can't afford that. But I got this job offer that's going to allow me to send her to college if I take it. So I was all like, well, what am I going to do? And so he's like, well, let's talk. So we talked, and I ended up buying the shop. Turned it into Hood River Skate Supply. And I had that for 4 years, and then I got robbed. When I got robbed, it pretty much took all the wind out of the sails. Never pictured myself old. And I don't feel old or think I'm old, but I'm old. I wish that I was skateboarding on the level that I was 5 years ago. All my effort and focus is on my free ride mountain biking, and that's because it feels, to be honest, it makes skateboarding small. The stuff that I'm doing, I learned everything through skateboarding for sure. I mean, when I discovered mountain biking, what I'm doing now, this type of biking, I was 47 years old. So that's when I realized, oh wow, this is something that I can do when skateboarding really slows down for me.
Life is just a constant walk. I'm looking for more, I hope that you find. Staying on your grind, you know you got trails to blaze up. And if they ask them, you tell them you never gave up. Life is just a constant walk. I'm looking for more, I hope that I find. Staying on my grind, you know I got trails to blaze up. And if they ask them, you tell them tab never gave up. It's like I'm getting younger and people gotten older. Inside but all these obstacles feel like I'm hopping over. Ain't seen a lot of sober since I was 18. Thought I was cool skipping school just to blaze green. It made my day seem something like a daydream. Took my mind from racing and slowed down the pacing. Then I got paging, pen press paragraphs, feeling so amazing. And it gets better as I get older. I got an iota of what we ought to do to teach the youth about culture.
When I reached the point where I could play with how I thought I looked, that's when I realized it was more of an individual art thing, more than I had thought of it, how I had thought of it before. Yes, skateboarding has taught me a world. It's taught me everything.